Hi friends, today I wanted to talk a little bit on how I deal with anxiety. As always, what I just wanted to say in general at the beginning was if you have a diagnosed anxiety disorder, if you struggle with anxiety in general, even if it's not diagnosed, it's always helpful to ask for professional help, so please do reach out if you need the help. But what I'm going to talk about here in this video is more so tips and specific things you can do yourself, no matter if you're in therapy or not. And the things that I'm going to talk about are not quick fixes. I just wanted to put that as a disclaimer. They are more so lifestyle changes and ways of thinking. It's not going to make you feel better instantly in most cases. And that's unfortunate, but to me, there is no such thing as a quick fix when it comes to anxiety. There's only distractions that are going to make you feel better for a couple of minutes. But what I want is true betterment and truly being able to deal with it or maybe even overcome it. So that's why I'm proposing solutions that might not feel good immediately or might even feel counterintuitive at first sight. So how I'm going to structure this is that I'm going to put more like lifestyle-based decisions in the beginning of the video. Those are more like quote-unquote smaller tips, but they have a huge impact to me. And then in the end, I'm also going to propose some things that you can contemplate on and some things to get to the core of why you maybe experience anxiety or even panic attacks. The number one thing, as I said, is to be meditating a lot. For me personally, meditation daily is where it's at. I know that might not be possible for everyone to have like a set routine because people's lives are busy. Of course, I would advise everyone to have it as part of their morning or night routine, but if it's not possible for you to take 10 or 20 or even 30 minutes out of your day to meditate, then what I would propose is to spend a lot of time meditating while you're doing daily tasks. So if you're, for example, washing the dishes or commuting to work, going out with a dog, whatever, to really do it quietly and focused, only washing the dishes or only walking the dog, doing nothing else and being completely in the moment, focusing on the task and on your breath. That's meditating already. It doesn't need to be a hard and complicated thing where you sit down, you do a specific breathing technique. It can be, and that's wonderful and it's really helpful. But if that's too much for you or you're just starting out, then this is a great way to start. Just doing simple basic tasks and meditating while you're doing that. And I think that's already a great way to ground yourself and to feel more peace. And it's also a practice for what you have to or what you can do when you do experience anxiety, because anxiety is something where like everything is running inside of you and you want to rip yourself out of your body and it feels horrible. And the number one thing to me that always helps is to ground myself. And meditation is a way to train that grounding so that when you're anxious and you can't think logically and everything is too much, you already know instinctively what to do because you train yourself with meditation to do that. So it's like ninja training for when the true battle comes, if you will. So that's why I would say to do it daily so that you're prepared for when you actually need it. And it's also just a general way to de-stress and decompress and release emotions and take care of yourself. And I think that's a really, really good precondition for already decreasing your anxiety. The next thing I wanted to propose was to have a release page. Of course, I'm going to talk about journaling. I do that in every single video because to me it's truly one of the most amazing things ever. But what I'm proposing here is for you to have a separate journal or a notes page on your laptop or your phone, wherever, something that you can carry with you. And whenever you feel overwhelmed, whenever anxiety is coming up, whenever you feel anything that is too much for you to handle, go to that release page and just let it all bleed onto the page. Just releasing yourself, writing everything that comes to your mind, letting your hand do the job. Nothing you need to do, you just need to take that pencil or type and just let it flow out and all the emotion just onto the page. Use as many swear words as you need. Be aggressive, be violent, be authentic. Write whatever comes to mind, no filter, no censor. And when you're done with that, you can delete the page or burn it, throw it in the trash, whatever. But have a little release ceremony where you breathe in, you look at what you just wrote, and you delete it on an out breath, and you're done with it. You release that shit and you let it go. And that to me is always super, super helpful, especially when I'm having an anxiety or a panic attack, where it's like really acute and I need to be doing something to move the energy and get rid of this thought carousel that thought carousel. This is a German word. Very like these thought loops you have where you're like thinking yourself into the ground and everything is racing. Like those things just need to be outside of you. And in those moments, it's good to have that release page. The third thing on my list is to make a safety list. I made a video about that, I think last week, but essentially what a safety list is that you try to compile a list of all the things that make you feel safe, that make you feel grounded, and that make you feel good. This can be activities, it can be people, colors, places, songs, scents, whatever. And the idea behind this is that you make this list, you have it somewhere where it's visible, and you try to incorporate little things of that list into your daily life. And that already is going to be a way to show yourself that you care about yourself. It's going to make your life more fun because you're surrounding yourself with and doing more of the things that make you feel good and that bring you joy. And you can also use that list when you're feeling anxious. Just go to that list, stop everything you're doing, go to that list, pick a couple of activities or things from that list and just do them. And get yourself in the space where you have control over what you're doing and you know that you like what you are doing and you're not forcing yourself to do something you don't want to do in a moment where you already feel shit. So that's why I think a safety list is an awesome, awesome thing to have. It really always helps me. And it's also a way to design your life in a way that you actually love. And that's obviously a great way to decrease your anxiety. The fourth thing on my list is to do breathwork. If you're confused now because you've never heard of breathwork, that's totally fine. Breathwork is essentially a technique where you use the breath to manipulate your physical sensations and your emotional body. So you would be using a breathing technique, like for example, 2 short inhales and a long exhale, and you do that quite quickly and continuously for a couple of minutes up to, I don't know, I've done 2-hour sessions in yoga studios, but most people start out with 5 minutes. And it's a really, really good way to work through emotional trauma, to work through stress, to work through triggers. Anything that needs to be released that is stored in the body or that is stored emotionally, overthinking, it really helps with almost anything. I really highly recommend it. If you're completely new to breathwork and you have no idea what it is, there's amazing videos on YouTube that explain it. I myself will, in a month or so, do a 7-day breathwork challenge when I'm done with exams. But I'll link you guys a meditation down below that I found that is really, really good, where it's like a guided breathwork session by a practitioner. But what I would advise is if you've never done it before, is to find a yoga studio or some sort of place like that where they have breathwork workshops. If you don't want to do that and you want to start at home, then I would say start really small with like 5 minutes or so that you get used to the sensations, because it can be quite emotional and it can also be quite the physical release, as in like shaking and cramping. It can get quite extreme. So it takes a little bit to get used to that and to also get used to the exhaustion of having to breathe like that. So starting slow and small, and then you can build your way up. And I think that's a great thing to like incorporate maybe into a weekly routine, maybe a monthly one, maybe you even want to try it daily if you're hardcore. But if you're going through something in your life right now, I think that's like one of the number one ways to help you in your healing and something that can help you decrease your anxiety. I wouldn't do it right when you're having a panic attack, obviously. That might be a little bit too much oxygen for your already overwhelmed body. But doing it outside of anxiety is a great way to prevent and decrease it. The next tip is to live more slowly and to live more quietly. This also kind of fits to my first tip where I said if you're washing the dishes, go meditate. This is kind of in the same line. So actively and intentionally setting your day out so that you have breaks in between, setting your week out so that you have days off, like literally scheduling that in to decompress and to de-stress. And when you're doing things, to do only the thing you're doing right now. No multitasking, and to do it quietly. I think a lot of times when I'm having like a stressful day, I overstress myself by additionally listening to a podcast and an audiobook and switching between two, and I'm watching Netflix while I'm eating, and I'm doing yada yada while I'm doing this. There's like so much going on, and a really good way to decompress is to just take it slow and do things one at a time. When you're eating, and nothing else. A really, really great way to battle with literally anything in life is obviously human connection to nature, and connection to animals and plants. If you have access to nature, please use it as often as you can. It will help you so, so much. I promise you that. I mean, I'm here right now, and I am for a reason today because I'm quite stressed. But connection with people, with friends, with family, professionals, people in your gym class, I don't care. Getting your social interaction is going to be great for you. It's something that's fun, and it will help you decompress as well. I'm going to say that word so many times, take a shot every single time I say it, but it is literally one of the most important things. And connection is also just going to fill up your heart. It's going to fill up your cup. And all of these things I'm saying here are things to fill up your cup so that it can overflow and you can also give to other people. This interaction of giving and receiving love is one of the most important things in life to me, and I think to many of us. If you're an introvert, you still need connection to nature, connection to animals, connection to humans every once in a while. Don't underestimate the effect that that can have on your life. The next thing I'm going to propose is to have a healthy diet and to work out. Obviously, I'm going to propose these things simply because they support your body in the hard work it's doing every single day in the best way possible. You're setting yourself up for success here by just showing yourself some love, showing yourself appreciation, and giving yourself the necessary energy you need to get through your daily life. And working out is also a great way to release all that pent-up energy, because I think a lot of times with anxiety, energy, especially in those anxious moments, is running so high, and there's so much going on in your physical and emotional body that needs to be released. And working out is a really, really good preventative measure to take for that energy to constantly be moving already. And then it's not going to get stuck anywhere and be pent up. I mean, you can, of course, also shake it off and literally dance. That is a great trauma-releasing exercise as well, is to just literally shake, to dance, to do kickboxing, to do yoga, whatever you want to do, whatever is fun to you. Working out and eating good should be fun for you, so trying to find a way here to make it a joy in your life is obviously going to be a good thing, and also decrease your anxiety. So I would say those two things are really important. And obviously having a healthy diet and working out is not going to cure everything. It's not going to cure your life and your anxiety away, but it is a way to support yourself on the journey there and to think more holistically about healing yourself on all levels, so also the physical. A really important thing I would say is to watch yourself on how you talk to yourself and what type of music you listen to, how you talk to others, and how you think. Because I think a lot of times when we're being anxious or fearful in any sort of way, our thoughts and our voices tend to become very harsh, and our self-talk tends to become very harsh, and we need a bit more awareness so that we can talk a little bit more softly to ourselves, have some more compassion. And music also hugely influences this. So if you love music with very harsh lyrics, I do too every once in a while, that's fine. But especially when you know that you're in a time that is very stressful, or you're already predisposed to having anxiety or even depression, then lyrics do have an influence, and I would try to choose very soft music like lo-fi or whatever else you like. To me is lo-fi. And to have that in the background, and maybe also have that as your unwinding routine where you just sit on your bed and you listen to that, and maybe you draw something or whatever, or you just sit there and enjoy the music and let yourself be enveloped by softer things. In line with having softer thoughts also goes having more appreciation for your life and for yourself. So obviously I'm going to suggest doing a gratitude list every single day. It takes about 2 to 5 minutes. I think everyone knows about the 5-minute journal, which is a great gratitude journal, but you do not have to get that one. You can also just write in your phone, today I'm grateful for, and make a list of 5 to 10 things, and make sure that you throw in some gratitude for yourself, especially if you're doing it at the end of the day. Just be like, hey, I'm proud of myself that today I went outside for 5 minutes. I'm proud of myself for finishing this. I'm grateful that I took the time today to cook myself instead of order in. And I'm grateful for that friend. She really helped me. And I'm also proud of myself because I helped her. Things like these are going to show you that you are someone that is worthy of appreciation, that you are valuable, and that you are equipped to handle your life, and you are in some sort of control. And those are things that are feelings and thoughts that are in complete opposition to anxiety. So I think they really, really help. With that also goes maybe making a list of all your accomplishments and your proud memories and your joyful memories that you have. And you could make that list every single week if you wanted to at the end of the week, or you could make it monthly, make it part of your monthly reset, as I do. where you just have a little data file where you put in all your memories that you want to write down, all your proud accomplishments, and whenever you're having an anxious moment, you can look back on that list and be like, hey, actually, maybe anxiety isn't right about telling me that I'm not good enough or that I'm useless, because look at this. I did this and this and this in the month of May 2020, and it was awesome, and I was able and allowed to experience this and that. And I can be proud of myself because up until now, I've survived literally anything, gotten through anything, and gotten better because of it. Having that list is going to be a huge help for your self-esteem and to decrease your anxiety and to make you feel like you can handle it, like you are actually equipped to get better and not just cope with it. Now, the next tips I have are more about contemplation and certain questions you can ask yourself to better deal with your anxiety. There are things that might need a bit more time, and it's also a bit of a mindset shift. So, usually what I always advise is to do the exact opposite of what anxiety is telling you to do when it comes to how to deal with it. Because I think oftentimes when we're anxious, our first instinct is to run away from this, to run away from the feeling itself. And I would propose to do the exact opposite and to actually sit with the feeling, to surrender to it, and to go into the fear instead of away from it. The reason being that it often has a lot of useful information for us and might get us to the core of why the anxiety is even there. A lot of times when I sit with my anxiety and I surrender to it and I start listening to the thoughts that are popping into my head and the emotions I'm feeling, I can actually kind of get to the core belief or the core thought that triggered this specific episode. And when I get to that core thought, I can actually work with it. I can try to change the belief. There's a process by Byron Katie called The Work. I will link it down below. It's also an app. And this process takes about 5 to 10 minutes to do, and it will change your belief. You can rehearse the new belief, and it won't be a trigger for you anymore. The core of the issue kind of has been solved in this case. And that to me is a really good long-term solution. And it's also a way to emotionally heal yourself. Another important reason for actually paying attention to your emotions and surrendering to the anxiety instead of trying to run away from it is that you're building self-trust and you are parenting yourself in the way that you should be. You're not abandoning yourself. And I think this kind of self-abandonment that we do a lot of times when we're feeling anxious is often also at the core of the issue itself. It's a self-loving thing to do, to stick up for yourself, to commit to yourself, and to stand up for yourself. And that means listening to your emotions and listening to your thoughts, actually spending time with them and getting acquainted with them instead of running away from them. And I'm not saying here to grab your anxiety and hold on to it and never let it go for dear life, but I am saying to not abandon yourself, to show up for yourself, and to actually feel your emotions, because it will help you in the long run, I promise you that. Because only from a standpoint where you know the reality of why you feel this way and how exactly you feel can you actually change something. So one of the practices I have is to treat my anxiety as if it were a little child inside of me. So that I can talk to it. I will have literal conversations with it. This might sound a little crazy, but it's a great way to find out things about yourself and the anxiety. You don't have to see it as a child. You can also see it as a separate person or just a voice in your head. Whatever you want to do to kind of get a little bit of detachment from the feeling itself, and then you can have some sort of communication with that feeling and figure out what it's all about. So one of the things that you can kind of figure out if you're a little more detached from the emotion itself is, what is this anxiety telling me that I don't want in my life? What triggered it? Which type of situation? What type of fear? What type of fear of the future? It might be telling you that you don't want certain things to happen in your life, or that you wish certain things hadn't happened. And this is a great way to find out if the opposite of what you don't want is what you actually want. And finding out what you actually want is a great way to feel like you have a bit more control, and it allows you to make actionable plans to achieve what you do want to have. And a lot of times when we get to the point where we know what we want, anxiety is going to tell us that we can't achieve that, or it's impossible, or we're not good enough for something like that. And in that case, a good question to ask is, what are you trying to protect me from? Anxiety in this case. So you can literally ask yourself, what could this anxiety be protecting me from? and how is it actually an advocate of me? So in some cases, for example, anxiety might be saying, hey, I don't want you to try this lofty goal of yours because what if you fail? Because if you try really hard and you still fail, you're going to be devastated, and I really want to protect you from this feeling of devastation. So in this case, anxiety is actually trying to love us. So essentially, what is anxiety telling you that you're really afraid of, that you want though, and how is it trying to protect you from that? And the reason we're trying to find that out is to develop some sort of compassion and understanding for our own anxiety, which I think is oftentimes also quite the opposite of how we normally feel towards our anxiety, which can be very hostile. And it can be a very self-loving thing to find some compassion and understanding for yourself. And in this case, if you find out that the core belief behind the entire anxiety is that you're afraid you're not going to achieve it and you're going to feel bad about it, then you can work on that belief again with the work or some other process to change your belief. And then the very last tip I have is to figure out how anxiety can be a good contrast for you that can bring more joy into your life. Because if you have anxiety, you're going to spend quite a lot of time thinking about that and being bummed out about it, or feeling anxious, or afraid of your next panic attack, afraid of your next anxious episode. And a lot of times anxiety, though, can really be helpful, as in that when we are feeling peaceful, when we are getting connection, when we do feel joy, we feel that more intensely because we know how shit it feels to be on the other end of it. And that's something to pay attention to. So when you become aware of you being peaceful, when you become aware of just having fun right now, try to find a little bit of gratitude in that moment too, that you're actually aware of that and can experience it maybe way more deeply than you could if you were not aware of what it feels like to not feel good, if that makes any sense. Anyways, those are all the tips that I had for you today. If you have any other tips or any comments, then please throw them down below. In the description box, I'll have some additional material that you guys can look through, and also the video link with a safety list and a meditation for overthinking. So if you want, you can check those out. Let's grow together, so let's help each other out in the comments. And take care, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.